Do you like pranks? Because yeah, we got ourselves some hijinks. A good old flim-flam on the international stage. The 1956 Olympic Flame Hoax, when some dudes from the University of Sydney decided to be absolute rascals for a good reason. They fooled spectators, police, and the mayor of Sydney into thinking that they were the official torchbearers for the Olympics. The reason they wanted to do this, aside from it being a hoot and a half for everybody, is because they wanted to protest the torch relay itself. Because while yes, the tradition was from ancient Greece, it was modernized in 1936 in Germany by some very unsavory characters for some very unsavory reasons. Okay, so here's how they did it. They made the torch with a wooden leg from a chair, which they painted with silver paint, which hadn't even dried by the time the relay started, and nailing an empty plum pudding can to the top of it. And then they stuffed a bunch of pairs of underwear in the top of it and doused them in kerosene and lit it on fire. And that is how you make yourself an undie torch. So there's about 30,000 people lining the streets waiting for the runner to get into Sydney, where they're gonna bring the torch to the mayor. So the pranksters light their undie torch, and a motorcycle escort that they've brought along with them, dressed as an Air Force guy, starts riding beside him. At first, both spectators and police were laughing at this going on, but as the guy was running with the torch, he accidentally flung a single pair of underwear out of the torch and it landed on the road flaming, and so he just panicked and dropped the torch and did a legger. So one of the other guys picked up the torch and just handed it to this guy, Barry Larkin, who did not intend to be part of it, and kicked him in the butt and said, "Hiya, giddy up." I don't know. He starts running. But Barry had not expected to actually participate in this, and so he was wearing slacks, a button-up shirt, and a tie. My dude was just there for the vibes. And this is when the cops start legitimately thinking that this is the actual runner. So they escort him all the way to City Hall, and while he's running, he's like, "What do I do when I get there?" Which made me wonder, what was the end game? We may never know, but it played out about exactly as sillily as you can imagine. So Barry arrives at City Hall and he's way earlier than anyone anticipated. So the mayor rushes outside to retrieve the torch, and he's so caught off guard, he just steps up to the mic and starts giving a speech. Doesn't even realize that the torch is filled with underwear or that his hands are getting covered in wet silver paint. And Barry just sneaks away quietly to take a tram back to a pub to watch everything with his buddies. Then one of the mayor's guys leans in and says, "That's not the torch." So the mayor has to lean into the mic and be like, "A prank has occurred." It kind of seems like the mayor did think that this was funny. Everybody at the University of Sydney was stoked, and the director of the college even came up to the boys and said, "Well done, son." Some city council members were genuinely upset about it, but then people would write into the newspaper and be like, "You guys grow up," calling them pompous and stuff. So then they had to be like, "Okay, it's fine, I guess." In 2000, the Olympics were going to be held in Sydney, and so this story got brought up again. During that relay, 2 people tried to steal the torch, and one guy tried to put it out with a fire extinguisher. Didn't work though. Why isn't this an event?